What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 130. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
Hi, how you guys doing?
What are you looking at?
Well, I did a bit where I usually say like hi to the camera, but I did it to my mic, so it's kind of like a reality bending type thing today.
The mic's not in the frame. That totally didn't play.
That's the fact that it doesn't play makes it play.
All right, Connor, how have you been doing, my friend?
Good. Busy working, but you know.
There we go.
Whatever.
Yeah, well, I'm back in Nacogdoches for school right now. As you can see, I'm no longer at my mother's house, so back to the apartment.
You're still home alone, right? You're still there alone.
I am. My roommate moved out, so it's just me here now. And no offense to him, but life is so much better when you're not living with someone you don't know.
Oh, it's way better. Yeah.
It's 1,000 times better. I'm having fun. Or way more fun than I was at the end of my last semester when he first moved in. So yeah, and it's so weird too because I came back and like all his stuff was gone. Like his cups and dishes were still here. He didn't have a lot, but like his bed linens were gone, his like clothes and everything, and his like TV and console, everything was gone. And I texted him and I was like, "Hey man, did you move out?" And got no response. Went down to the office and I was like, "Hey, what's going on there?" And they're like, "Man, we don't know. He is not paying rent, and we have not been able to get a hold of him." And I was like, "Okay, well, he's gone. Like, his stuff is not there." So, I don't know.
He was involved with some shady stuff, and you know, he just.
I think he just because he got a new job. I think he just had other opportunities and was able to go somewhere else. So he just dipped. I think that's just what happened. So, good luck to you, former roommate.
You don't even know his name.
I do, but I'm not going to put it on the internet.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 130. If you didn't know, every week, me and Connor, we come to you with the new news you need to know concerning the video game industry. We each come to you with two topics, two pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents on them. Now, very important stuff is hitting the channel this week. Live as of an hour ago of when we were recording. If you're watching us live over at twitch.tv/2pennygames every Sunday when we go live to record all of our podcast shows. Live an hour ago, the YouTube short version of Phil's top 10 games of the year just went live. Mine will be going live tomorrow, hopefully, if I get the edit done in time. So all of that is live right now up on the channel, which you can see right there. Alongside the new episode of the Piggy Bank just went live yesterday, Saturday, if you're watching at a later time, in which we play our usual mini games as always, and we go over top 10 IGN's top 10 open world games of all time. And let me tell you what, there's some shocking entries on that list we were not prepared for.
Yeah, I disagreed with because Elden Ring wasn't in the top 3. I think.
Was it not? I don't remember.
No, I think it was like 5.
I think
it was like 5.
Was it 5? Oh, it was 5. It was. Yeah. Anyways, and then there's some other ones that were like, why is this even on the list? But you're going to have to go watch the episode to check that out. If you're watching live here soon on the Piggy Bank, we will be recording our video game fantasy draft of 2022. So come join us. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on podcast services afterwards, you can catch that going live on Saturday.
I got a question. We're doing that live then?
Yeah, we're doing that live.
Okay, good. I didn't do it yet. I was going to ask that. I was like, okay.
Well, in the break, we're not. We haven't like drafted them yet. We're drafting them all. Yeah. Oh, that's your question. I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, that'll be the whole Piggy Bank episode is us drafting our shit. So.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, oh, wait, was I supposed to do it beforehand and we're just unveiling it? Am I just been behind on things?
No. We're doing it. It is the episode is what we're doing. And I'll say, Connor, we're only drafting 9 games to start with. You have 18 for the whole year. But be prepared to draft more than 9 games because games will be stolen. They'll be taken. They'll be yoinked.
They will be. Mm-hmm.
You know? You may not get. What's a game that's not coming for a long time? I don't know.
Marvel. Next Super Mario game.
The next Super Mario game. There's a good chance there's a Super Mario game coming this year. but we'll have to see and find out. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, join us live for that, or just catch the episode later this week on Saturday. Connor, let's drop some sense on them. Let's get right into the news. I want to start with my first penny of the day, our first topic. Excuse me. Ubisoft's CEO reportedly tells staff the onus is on them to reverse the company's fortunes. This is a VGC article from Tom Ivan. Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot has reportedly told the staff the onus is on them to reverse the company's fortunes after it provided a dire financial update on Wednesday. Following weaker-than-expected software sales over the holiday season and a new delay for Skull and Bones, the company slashed its revenue forecast for the current fiscal year. It also canceled 3 unannounced games and said it plans to make some 200 million euros in cost cuts over the next 2 years. Quote, though targeted restructuring, divesting some non-core assets, and usual natural attrition. Skull and Bones will now be released during Ubisoft's next fiscal year, which begins in April and runs until March 2024. During this period, Ubisoft said it's also planning to release Assassin's Creed Mirage, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, quote, and other yet-to-be-announced premium games, including a large one, as well as promising free-to-play titles for some of our biggest brands. Like Skull and Bones, the Avatar game was planned for release in 2022, prior to a delay, and so too was Assassin's Creed Mirage, according to reports. In an email sent to employees on Wednesday and viewed by Kotaku, Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot said these delays, quote, weighed on our costs and decreased our associated revenues. Quote, today more than ever, I need your full energy and commitment to ensure we get back on the path to success. I am also asking that each of you be especially careful and strategic with your spending and initiatives to ensure we're being as efficient and lean as possible. Guillemot also urged the staff to deliver on what he called, quote, the biggest pipeline in Ubisoft history. The ball is in your court to deliver this lineup on time and the expected level of quality and show everyone what we are capable of achieving. Just a real boost of confidence to the Ubisoft teams and so forth. Just really letting us know that, you're really just a team player here.
Yeah. Now, I'm not even going to touch on the sexual harassment stuff that has gone on at Ubisoft, and nothing has been done on that front. There's actually a story that broke back in 2021. I have it right here, where after all these reports were coming out that there was harassment going on, nothing really changed on the ground level because management sucks at Ubisoft, and that's the core problem here. It's stupid to have the CEO who, by all accounts, has run the company into the ground and has made bad decision after bad decision, put the onus on the workers, the game makers, who, let's be honest, if you put in a game with good management in there and they kind of communicate what they want done and have good ideas, they're going to be able to make the game. These people who make the Ubisoft games, they're good at their job. It isn't on them to decide whether their games do good or not. It's up to the decisions of the upper echelons of Ubisoft and middle management to make sure that these games are coming along well. I mean, Skull and Bone, it's been delayed multiple times, and I have a hard time believing that the people who work on the games are just messing up every single day, and they just, constantly are screwing things up and delaying the game themselves. It's way more believable, especially after all we hear about them and how badly their games have done the past couple of years, that management just doesn't know what they're doing. No Ubisoft game comes out nowadays, and people are like, oh my god, Ubisoft's doing this incredible thing, and they're so amazing. They're just, ahead of the curve. They never are. And that's really the core reason why they're messing up and why they haven't been doing good. It's not because they don't know how to make games, and it's not like as if though you just telling them to do better is going to make the situation better. You have to actually,
put in policy, put in
Yes.
procedure, put in steps to make sure things are running smoothly. You can't just put it up to your thousands of employees. You're the one running the ship. You can't like the captain of the ship does not look at his crew and go, "Why is the ship sinking?" Well, Captain, it's because you led us into an iceberg. So, what are we supposed to do? I'm right there. I'm right there alongside with you, man. It's 100% failure of Guillemot and any management position underneath him. The continued failure of Ubisoft that we've seen this entire last generation. When was the last truly revolutionary Ubisoft game to come out? You're looking at Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4, maybe some of these later Assassin's Creed games. It's been very hit or miss for Ubisoft for a very long time now. And let's be honest, they're missing more often than they're hitting these days.
Yeah.
And the continued delay of Skull and Bones. This is now the 6th time it's been delayed. Skull and Bones, for context, was announced in like 2015, was meant to come out in 2018. It is now 2023, and we don't have a hard date for that game yet. We gave it an excuse at the end of the year last year when they were set to release the same day as God of War Ragnarok, and we were like, hey, you should get out of there. And then they got out of there. So I was fully expecting this last date, I forget when it was, February or some shit, this last date that got delayed this last week, to indefinitely. We don't have a date yet. I was expecting them to hit that one. And I was expecting Skull and Bones to come out and be super meh, because you're taking a sub-mode from Assassin's Creed that was praised with Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and just totally like blowing that up and making it its own thing, which does sound cool, but every single presentation of this game, every single showing of this game just continues to look more and more meh. Like, we just cannot care. I think the developers are struggling to find the fun, struggling to find the game loop. And you know why they're struggling to find these things? Because it's Ubisoft Singapore, which is infamously just a circus show of sexual harassment and just mismanagement and work harassment and so forth. Did you say racial as well?
Yeah. I remember there was claims that there was, I don't know exactly specific stories, but apparently some of those workers that were blowing the whistle on it were saying that there was racism going on there in the office. Yes,
huge racism, lots of discrimination against women, specifically pregnant women, not even on the developer level, just like people who were managing paperwork, secretaries, HR, stuff like that. Like, everyone is just having a terrible time over there. So it's no wonder that your game is not coming out and not being able to hit a date. Also, where the fuck is the Prince of Persia remake? Like,
it didn't work out.
Don't get me wrong, I don't have faith in that. I'm not excited for that either as an old Prince of Persia fan. But Jesus Christ, man. Like, get your studios together. Form up. Stop listening to whatever yes men you're listening to. Your people, your friends, probably you, are letting your entire staff down. Thousands of employees. And now we have to sit back and think, how much longer does Ubisoft got?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like much, man. It doesn't look like much. And in this era where every single major publisher is getting bought up, all right, Sony, here they come. You know, I'm sure they're more than interested in acquiring you if they don't already have their eyes on Square Enix. Or it's just time for Ubisoft to go the way of the Dodo, man. Like, and I don't feel like I'm being extremist. I don't feel like I'm being dramatic. I don't feel like I'm blowing this out of proportion. This is a fight that I've been for a long time. I've been saying, okay, yes, not every Ubisoft game hits. Yes, Ubisoft makes the same game over and over and over again. But when they hit, they hit. And when they were important, they were very important. But Rainbow Six Siege has been quiet for a long time now. For Honor is all but dead. Assassin's Creed you've split the fan base. Now nobody knows what Assassin's Creed is anymore. You don't have an identity with that franchise anymore. Nobody has faith that the next Assassin's Creed will hit. Nobody has faith in your smaller titles like Skull and Bones or the Prince of Persia remake. Where the fuck is Splinter Cell? I don't have faith in that remake either. They teased it on Twitter, and I don't know why they did, just for shits and giggles.
Dude.
Like, you just look at the prospects of Ubisoft, and you have to sit back and go, yo, you guys are not doing it well anymore, and you haven't been doing it well for a while. Far Cry 5 was a flop to me. Far Cry 6, I didn't hear anybody talk about. Like, I think it's just time to pump the brakes and you know, they talk about a restructuring and the need to divest some non-core assets and usual natural attrition. That means layoffs on a mass scale. And it's so disappointing to hear that the people who are kicking ass, the people who are making Ubisoft the company that it once was, and who are still trying to light that fire again, they're the ones who are going to take the L for this. It's disappointing.
Yeah. You know, one thing that happened when Elden Ring came out, I always seem to bring this game up, but it's good to show how people feel about Ubisoft nowadays, and I think it's directly tied to middle management. You may have seen the images online. For those of you that didn't, Elden Ring has a very limited UI. It doesn't have map markers everywhere. It really gives you the ability to explore as you see fit without the game just telling you where to go and packing in a bunch of random useless things you can find in the world that have really no significance on your play experience.
And to take it off of Elden Ring, just to add more validity to the argument you're about to make, Death Stranding did this, Breath of the Wild did this, every major open world that was trying to be of consequence limited their UI because they want you to get lost and explore the world. Continue.
Yeah. And as a joke to that, as a direct insult to companies like Ubisoft, to like EA, they would just have, the the Elden Ring, game screen up and just put a bunch of random overbearing things like, here's this map marker, here's your objectives, here's how people feel about you, sometimes ridiculous stuff, but it really did showcase that a lot of the games that companies like Ubisoft make, these open world games that have potential, because open world games are intrinsically, I think, fun because you can do a lot with it, but they just do the most boring same things every single time. Far Cry 5, Far Cry 6, what's the difference? I didn't really hear many people say, Far Cry 6 does this thing way better. I heard, it's more Far Cry. And for a game that was hyped up for that year, it was Ubisoft's only hyped up game. It was like, wow, this is the best you got. The same thing over and over again. And it's not, once again, it's not the people who just make the games, who do the legwork's decision on these things. It's whoever is the upper management, is who comes to them with the ideas and says, hey, this is the kind of game we're making. This is what you need to do. And they're just boring with it. Even going into Assassin's Creed, you said that they're no longer having the, people are split on it now. And they've taken this new direction with the open world, more action adventure type oriented gameplay. Now that's becoming stale because they just don't freshen it up. Origins seems to play the same. Origins and Odyssey play relatively the same way, though they were received differently because they weren't, people weren't bored of that type of experience yet or getting tired of it. But yet they keep bringing that same kind of experience to people. And it's this lack of ingenuity that is the other thing that's really killing them. And once again, it's way easier to say, oh, it's this guy's fault for not doing his job well enough and, not putting in enough work, which is easy for people like this to say who, frankly, can be replaced easily. Guillemot, I always forget his name.
Yves
Guillemot, you could be replaced, buddy. You're not that important. Anybody can do it. As a matter of fact, people would probably start playing your games more if you were removed because, there's not a scumbag name associated with it. And someone can fill your role just as easily and better than you can. But all the bulk of your people who make the games, they can't just be up and replaced. If they up and leave one day, you're screwed. And so treating them this way, you're not doing yourself or your company any favors. You're just making people hate you more and doing nothing to change your current situation. It's pathetic, frankly.
No, I'm right alongside you. Their failure to innovate, their failure to pay attention to what's going on. I understand this is game development, and games take a long time to get into our hands, the consumer's hands. But you just treaded water the entirety of the PlayStation 4. You treaded water the entirety of the PlayStation 4 generation to the point to where now we're looking at your prospects and we're just not excited by any of it. You made a great point where Assassin's Creed Origins was exciting. People liked Ghost Recon Wildlands, but even though I didn't, but people did. It was successful. And then what came next? Odyssey. Okay, another hit. Some more innovation, some dialogue choices, some just a full dive into the RPG setup. I liked it a lot. Our OG Assassin's Creed fans, were a little bit split on it, but I think overall everyone agrees that Odyssey was a really good game. And then you just hit us with content pack after content pack after content pack for that until it was time for Valhalla to come out. And by that point, we were so sick of that formula that Valhalla did not do the impact you wanted to. And then you did the same thing with that. Content pack after content pack after content pack that for a game that nobody was excited for, to the point to where you had to bring back the fan favorite character of Odyssey to make that exciting again. And we just weren't. And then alongside that comes, clearly Odyssey was inspired by Breath of the Wild, but alongside that comes, your Death Strandings. Alongside that comes your Ghost of Tsushimas, which arguably is making better Assassin's Creed games than Assassin's Creed. Alongside coming Elden Ring, which it's unfair because that game just came out last year, so we can't see the impact of that. But my point is that we see dev studios continuously challenging themselves. We see them continuously innovating. They've done something for a while. It's time to stop doing that and do something new. We have that reaction video for the Assassin's Creed Direct with me and Phil, and we were both, interested in what was being promised at that Direct, but it was 7 Assassin's Creed games. What? That's it? That's all you've got? Where is Ghost Recon? Where is Splinter Cell? Where's Prince of Persia? Where is Skull and Bones? Where is anything to make us go, oh, that's interesting? What happened to the old Ubisoft Indies program? Where's Valiant Hearts? Or where's those teams at? Where are they? They're just gone. And now, we had that last Ghost Recon game that was just crap, and we just don't care anymore. We just don't care. You've lost the players. Watch Dogs is another example of, it came out, we were excited, it just turned out to be another one of your usual Ubisoft, clear the fog of war, get the towers, more icons on the map, and that didn't interest us. Watch Dogs 2 was a little bit better, but didn't have the sales. Watch Dogs Legion, nobody cared. Because your games are so copy-paste that they all have the same identity. And when they all have the same identity, none of them have identity. And so now we're sitting here, twiddling our thumbs, hoping that the Ubisoft of old comes back and allows us to be excited about something for once. And just to close this bit out and move on to our second topic of the day, it's compacted or bookended by the fact that other companies have similar issues and they're figuring it out. We move on to our second topic of the day. Connor, your first penny of the day. Naughty Dog says revealing past games too early hurt the studio. This is another VGC article, again by Tom Ivan. Naughty Dog has suggested it will reveal its next game closer to its release than has been the case with its recent titles. The Sony-owned studio has previously faced allegations of a crunch culture, and in an interview with Comic Book, co-president Neil Druckmann said announcing previous games too early had contributed to work-life balance issues at the company. Uncharted 4 was announced in November 2013 and released in May 2016, while The Last of Us Part 2 was announced in December 2016 and released in June 2020 following 2 delays, including one designed to let Naughty Dog polish the title while reducing stress on the team. Quote, "You're right, we did announce Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us Part 2 way in advance, but that actually caused a little bit of the work-life balance issues that we've sometimes had at the studio," Druckmann said. "By delaying that announcement a bit, we could play with the schedule more, and we're more conscious now about how we're approaching production." So there's our multiplayer project, the Last of Us multiplayer project, and there's another project that I will not say anything about that's beyond that we're also very much excited for. While Naughty Dog has historically struggled to implement a multi-project development strategy, Druckmann said last June that Last of Us 2's commercial success had enabled the studio to take on multiple projects more than we've ever had at the same time. As well as announcing that Naughty Dog was working on a standalone Last of Us multiplayer project, Druckmann confirmed that he was directing a new game. Last week, the studio shared the second piece of concept art for the Last of Us multiplayer game, which will feature its own story and a new cast of characters, and said more information planted. We talked about all of that last week. But this is exactly to my point of when we were talking about the Ubisoft situation. Management sees the problem. They're working to identify it. They're seeing different things that may have caused these problems and saying, okay, let's address these head on and figure out how we can solve this. Props to you, Naughty Dog. Props to you, Neil Druckmann, for at least trying something, implementing new policy, having new procedure in your production pipeline to make us go, oh, okay, cool, we're waiting. Because I 100% believe that. I remember all the Uncharted 4 delays. I remember all the Last of Us 2 delays. Granted, one of those Last of Us 2 delays was caused by the pandemic. And I'm sure that the multiplayer project has been feeling the effects of the pandemic in bulk. Because, again, this multiplayer project was announced before Last of Us 2 came out. It was supposed to be a standalone mode that was coming later, and then it turned into its own game, as Naughty Dog often does with their things like The Left Behind, like Lost Legacy. And so now we're looking at this and we're saying, they're being quiet. They're keeping their cards closer to their chest. you and I expressed, or mostly me, expressed some frustrations last week about how they keep giving us concept art for this goddamn multiplayer game, but they're not telling us what the video game is. This, I think, is the showing of like, hey, yeah, we've got it coming. Don't worry, you're gonna like it when it comes. But like, we need to make sure our people are taken care of here. And I think this is an example of Naughty Dog trying to implement some change and some policy examples of how they're trying to make things work a little better. And they're simply going, yeah, we announce our games too early. That puts a lot of stress on us and a lot of pressure on us to deliver. Instead, we're just going to go quiet. We're going to go dark, and then we'll pop out when we're ready to pop out. We're Naughty Dog. We can do that.
Yeah, Evan Wells and Neil Druckmann are the co-presidents of Naughty Dog right now. And so, first of all, when it comes to this story, this is great, I think, because I always have had an issue where a game will be announced, and I'll be like, okay. And then they'll be like, it's coming out in 2 years, 3 years, or something like that. And I'm like, okay, why? You don't need to. There's no reason to do this. Now, I'm not quite sure how this factors into work-life balance. I'm assuming it does, I'm guessing it obviously puts some stress on the developers to get their game out.
They're crunching really hard to meet dates that, not only do they know internally and that they've got pressure on from higher ups, but now the public knows.
Yeah, and it was never a point to doing that. So now at least they're trying to fix that work-life issue that had been coming out of Naughty Dog in recent years. The big criticism, though, I do have of this story is we had covered it a while ago, where Neil Druckmann and Evan Wells said that in regards to unionization to combat work-life balances wasn't the answer to it. And I know my stance on it, and I think yours was as well. That's not really true at all. That most definitely would help work-life balance. So when paired with that, I do see this as kind of like an attempt to cut down on that, which is good. I'm not criticizing that at all. But what I am criticizing is it seems like it's trying to go a different way of it and avoid unionization, which is just a general better way to give workers more power in the work-life balance they have, but also in terms of how much they get paid for the job, the benefits they have. So while this is better than not doing anything at all, and it most definitely is the right choice to do, it does seem like it's kind of off the back of that, trying to avoid another issue entirely, which, feeds into my issues that I've had with Neil Druckmann and Evan Wells running this company. But, especially since we just talked about the Ubisoft story and Guillemot, whatever that idiot's name is, compared to that, at least they're doing something to help things along, even if it's not exactly in what I would say are the best of ways. Naughty Dog being the big company it is, and having these work-life balances come out, usually when the game is nearing its release date, or internally trying to meet whatever dates they set for themselves, usually as a result of them announcing the game way too early. Hopefully this serves as kind of like a guidepost of like, okay, other companies, if you want to cut down on an issue that is plaguing the video game industry, that obviously sidesteps the issue of unionization, which is another conversation entirely, but obviously intrinsically linked to one another. At the very least, baseline, this should be the standard for every company, to not constantly be revealing games over and over again. So despite how my issues with Naughty Dog, it is not only better than nothing, but a good direction to first begin taking the video game industry. And Naughty Dog's one of those ones that when they start doing things, other companies can easily follow suit because their model has worked. Naughty Dog has constantly made money. Obviously, they said that they've had a great commercial success with Last of Us Part 2, and they did. And that made tons and tons of money. It was, until Elden Ring, the highest sold game recently in PlayStation's catalog. What was the thing that broke recently? Some selling thing?
It was the most awarded video game.
Most awarded. So not but okay, never mind. That aside, they still have made tons of money. Mm-hmm. And, other companies like Ubisoft can look at that and say, hey, maybe we can institute these changes to make things better. So, issues aside, good that they're doing, something on this front. Than just saying, oh, well, unionization wouldn't fix it, and then just kind of letting the conversation go by the side, just ignoring it and saying, okay, well, what are you going to do? So at least they have some kind of dedication to fixing this problem.
Yeah. I'm pretty much right there with you, where, like, they're working towards it. Yeah. And I could tear this quote apart from Druckmann. He's just in an interview, but he does kind of downplay the quote actually caused a little bit of work-life balance issues that we've sometimes had at the studio. It's downplaying some of the things that your team went through for The Last of Us Part 2. But, I'll allow the PR statement. I'll allow, you're in an interview and you're just giving a quick answer, whatever. It's not an official statement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you are representing the company when you say that. So, I mean, yeah, you knocked it out of the park there. I'm right there alongside you. We're like, sure, y'all could be doing more. Hopefully this is going to help. Hopefully this is going to be the practice in the future. But I think it's funny because you look at just other first party Sony studios, PlayStation studios, and you see, I think a better balance of what's going on. I haven't heard anything. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But I haven't heard anything about crunch at Sony Santa Monica Studios, which is right there alongside Naughty Dog in terms of prestige. Insomniac goes out of their way to tell us, yeah, our studios don't crunch. Insomniac, we don't crunch here. We send people home and work on them. And while you could argue that Insomniac games don't hit on the same level as your God of Wars and your Last of Us Part 2s, Spider-Man is certainly nothing to scoff at. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is certainly nothing to scoff at. And, what will eventually be Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine, you could argue maybe those were, revealed a little too early as well, but, that could have just been the tail end of, PlayStation Studios' marketing rollout, and now they're going to change things to help themselves out a little more. There's a difference in procedure. We haven't heard anything about Spider-Man 2 since Spider-Man 2's announcement. So, you assume that means they're tucked away, they're quiet, they're going to go work on it. Also, PlayStation Studios is vast enough, no matter what they tell the FCC, PlayStation Studios is vast enough to where, while one game is going through its marketing cycle, another one is quietly gearing up for their marketing cycle, and then they have one behind that, and then one behind that, and one behind that. I almost guarantee you, if this Last of Us multiplayer project doesn't come out this year, it is the project right behind Spider-Man 2. And I believe them when they say Spider-Man 2 is going to be this year. I believe them because Insomniac gives me no reason not to believe them. Good on Naughty Dog for recognizing that they have a problem and that they're, hopefully working to address these issues. I feel like they could probably just look around, make a phone call to the people around you, because they seem to have a better grip on it. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying that they're doing it perfectly. I'm just saying we don't hear these things from these studios like we do with Naughty Dog, like we do even with From Software, which, Connor, you brought up earlier, suffers from heavy crunch culture as well. Anything else on this last one, my man? Are you muted, my friend?
I was blowing my nose. I was like,
I thought at the first one I let go because I was like, maybe his mic just didn't pick it up or whatever. The second one I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, I forgot. Blowing my nose. Not really. I mean, we kind of said all we need to say about this. Really, I guess the last, top off for my take on it is, this is easy to say that they'll do this. They won't reveal past games too early. And it seems like they're doing that right now with Last of Us multiplayer, which we haven't heard jack shit about. And apparently is going to come out this year. And maybe that's the first signal that they are going to keep up with this.
I don't know. They haven't said anything. Yeah.
They have not, yeah. So we'll, I think that'll be a good example to see how they carry themselves going forward and how early they announce whatever it is their next new game is, which possibly could be Last of Us, 3, Part 3. So hopefully they keep their word on this.
God, I hope it's something else. God, I hope it's something else. As a Last of Us fanboy who loves The Last of Us Part 2, I really want them to step away for a minute. I really want something else from Naughty Dog, especially because even though we haven't gotten, if you look at the game releases, we don't have that many Last of Us titles, but it feels like we have a lot of Last of Us titles. By the way, also, I forgot to mention at the top of the show, we'll be reviewing episode by episode The Last of Us HBO TV series. If you're listening to this on Monday, 8 a.m. Central Time, that review for episode 1 should already be up. Fingers crossed if we have our scheduling correct. So check us out for that, youtube.com/2pennygames. I haven't decided if it's going to podcast services yet or not. We'll find out. Probably not, because all of our other reviews are just breakouts. But since this isn't attached to the Gamescast, as everything else usually is, What do you think, Con? We'll have that conversation later.
Yeah.
Anyways, Connor, let's move on to our next topic of the day. Our third topic, my second penny. A heartbreaking story. GamesIndustry.biz analysts lower sales targets for Callisto Protocol. This is from Jeffrey Rousseau. After the title's performance, analysts have lowered sales targets for Krafton's Callisto Protocol. As reported by the Yonhap news agency site K-Odyssey, the adjustments come a month after the title's launch. Quote, the company expected cumulative sales of 5 million copies, but considering the current sales ranking, cumulative sales of 2 million copies will not be easy until this year, said analyst firm Samsung Securities. In part, K-Odyssey notes that industry watchers attributed the game's reception to its developmental focus. Quote, the problem is that Krafton spent a significant amount of money on the production of the Callisto Protocol, the publication said. Analysts also cited the survival horrors titles reviews on Metacritic as a matter of concern. New content for Callisto Protocol in 2023 was announced, including paid DLC story content planned for the summer. So yeah, I reviewed the Callisto Protocol last year, and I was not a fan of it. So, alongside, I kind of, it seemed that, like, generally, a lot of reviewers weren't super into it. I saw a couple of, fairly high scores, but a lot of middling ones. This doesn't surprise me all too much, especially because I think the general public didn't have their eyes on this game like they thought. 5 million sales, I think, from the jump is pretty ambitious for this title, even if it did come out and blow our socks off and so forth. I don't know if 5 million was gonna happen anyways, but it is unfortunate that they put a lot of time and a lot of investment and a lot of money into this, and it's not coming through on the back end. So. I Striking Distance Studios, I was hoping for. I was interested to see where their next title was going, because I even said it in my review. The Callisto Protocol has a lot of potential. I just think their focus was in the wrong place, and I think they tried things that overall was not the smartest design attempts. But looking back on that game, would I have wanted a sequel? I don't know, but definitely would have been excited or interested to see what Striking Distance had next. And, hopefully Krafton doesn't, axe this studio because of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was the first game they made, so it might be the death knell for them. Hope it's not, because I don't think someone should just make a single game and have not performed super well and then just be like, okay, that's it, you lose. One chance is done. Because, the game looks good from a visual standpoint. Like, when I see the game being played, it doesn't look bad. I believe people when they say it doesn't feel good to play. And it's not designed very well. Mm-hmm. But, clearly visually there and how, everything moves, they have something they could work with. But, it really, when it comes to the business side of things on the video game industry, the ball's out of our court and out of their court as well. It's just hope they give them another chance and they don't just axe them.
Yeah, no. It's clear that the studio has a lot of talent at it. It's very clear to me that they have a lot of talent. Glenn Schofield, Dead Space. And, just a lot of, Dead Space staff is there. Yeah. Original Dead Space staff is there. And when you look at the game, you can see a lot of talent in their presentation, in their visual design, in their audio design. It's fantastic in that game. It got praised, I think, across the board for its visuals. It's just its gameplay designs and its core gameplay loop, I think, didn't connect with players. It certainly didn't connect with me. And I think if they just sort of take a step back and realign and figure something else out, if they're stuck in the idea of we don't want to do Dead Space again, fine. Don't market your game like Dead Space then, and figure something else out, because what you presented us didn't necessarily work. And Connor, you know me, like, game feel, game systems, systems building upon each other. Those are all very important for me. How it feels to traverse around the world, how combat feels in moment to moment is very important to me. And Callisto Protocol, unfortunately, did not hit that bar for me, and I kind of wish it did. Still, probably, the most disheartening game that I played last year, because I so badly wanted it to be great, and it just didn't connect with me in that way. So yeah, I hope to see more from Striking Distance. But if not, that's unfortunate. And yeah, I I just hope from here we figure something out.
Yeah.
Moving on to our next topic, our final topic of the day. And Connor, your second penny of the day: Dead Space movie in development, according to John Carpenter. We are pulling from InsideGaming.com. From where's the byline in this story? Where's it at? Where's the byline? I can't find it.
I have to click on. I think I had to click on the
I
guy's
gotta click
name.
on the guy, Grant Taylor Hill.
Grant Taylor Hill.
All right.
You know, Insider Gaming, you probably put the name.
You probably put the name of the who wrote it on there, but okay.
Yeah.
John Carpenter, legendary film director, may have inadvertently leaked the development of a Dead Space movie in something that could almost be described as a throwaway comment in an interview. Carpenter made a statement that, if read the right way, directly suggests such a project exists. Carpenter, whose work includes the likes of The Fog, Halloween, Escape from New York, is in a cat. No mention of The Thing? No mention of The Thing.
Those are all good movies, definitely.
And directly, like, you could see a direct line from The Thing to Dead Space. No diss on The Fog and Halloween and Escape from New York. All of those are classics. All right, Halloween, I don't know if it's a great film, but, you know, it's a classic. It's impactful. It moved the culture. But you go back and watch it, and you're like, oh, these are some choices, you know. But Escape from New York is badass. I've never seen The Fog. You have, right?
Yeah, it's very, very good. Like,
yeah, but we are both lovers of The Thing. The Thing is...
Watch it in black and white.
The Fog?
Yeah, it's way better in black and white, yeah.
Oh, right, because the CGI isn't great.
That's true, but it also just stylistically works for the kind of show it is. Oh, okay. But as you said, yeah, we both think of The Thing as like some of our favorite movies of all time. I think it's the best horror movie ever created, hands down. I'm
probably right. It's in that conversation for sure. Hereditary would like a word, you know.
It does come in. That's freaky.
And then also, you know, classics such as like Poltergeist and so forth. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I love The Thing. I showed this last holiday season, I showed The Thing to my girlfriend, and she was kind of into it. She was like, "This is cool. This is a neat movie." It was really funny, like watching her, like, because I didn't tell her anything about it. I said it's a horror movie. It's really cool. You're gonna like it. A lot of twists and turns, because she loves the twists and turns and reveals and stuff like that.
Got a lot of that.
And man, that dog. There's like a point where the dog is just like looking out the window, like they just came back from their helicopter flight from the Norwegian group, and the dog is watching them, and she goes, "Oh, there's something wrong with this dog." And I was like,
let me guess. When she first saw the dog being chased by the helicopter and shot at, she was like, "Oh no, why are they
100%.
Dog?" Yeah,
100%.
And then after I was like, "Wait a minute, maybe this guy is onto something."
Yeah. Anyways, back to the story here. He'd be perfectly placed to work on a film. John Carpenter would be perfectly placed to work on a film based on one of the most horrific franchises in gaming. But according to him, he certainly isn't up to directing it. But someone else is. Is a Dead Space movie on the way? Recently, there has been so much news regarding live-action adaptations of top-tier All right. In an interview with Variety, when asked if there's any movement on Carpenter directing a possible Dead Space movie, the man himself said, excuse me, quote, "I'm not going to do it. I think they already have another director involved, and they haven't asked me to do it. So until someone asks me, I wouldn't do it. But there's a new version of the Dead Space video game coming out in January, and I'm there." So John Carpenter, legendary director plugged into the inner workings of Hollywood, believes that there's a director involved with a Dead Space movie. It's time to discuss taking something like this with a pinch of salt, but if the statement is to be believed, it could mean that a grisly gore horror movie is on the horizon, and its name is Dead Space. So, not a lot to go off of here, but it's fun. You know, it's a fun story. You know, when movies are in this level of talk, they could live and die just as easily as anything else. You know, in the concept phases of Hollywood. I think Dead Space would make a cool movie. I think you should be pretty damn faithful to it, but at the same time, does Dead Space only work because it's a video game? I don't know. That's a question we should ask. But if they go to John Carpenter with it, but I think John Carpenter doesn't really like directing movies anymore. I think he's preferring to step back nowadays. Yeah. But it's always fun whenever he pops out and like shows off how much of a video game nerd he is. And Dead Space is a hell of a game to be into, especially if you're a guy like Carpenter.
Who likes video games a lot, if you didn't know.
Yeah, he's into it. Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see why would we want this, but I don't know if Dead Space is the franchise we want this from. Resident Evil might be tainted in the mainstream Hollywood, zeitgeist, so we would need a different, franchise to dip back into. I think it's time for Silent Hill to come back personally, if we're going live action routes, because that franchise has been quiet, whereas Resident Evil refuses to fucking die. As a fan of Resident Evil, stop making live action Resident Evil. It's clearly it's not going to happen. What?
We love them though.
We love them for the wrong reasons.
It can be made good. It can be made good. It will be good.
It could, but clearly it's not going to happen.
TV show failed, so that's it.
Yeah, and then they list a bunch of other live action stuff that's happening. Last of Us is apparently going to be a hit. I assume it's going to be a hit. Before we even watch the episode again, review up now live on the channel. Not if you're watching live, come back in a couple of hours and we'll be reviewing that a little later. But yeah, this would be cool. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the obviously we talked about The Thing earlier, because The Thing is very it's very body horror. It's very much a body horror film, and Dead Space is a body horror video game. It's people being corrupted in these, twisted, disgusting-looking aliens, which on its own can be very scary and very effective in a movie if it's done right. Obviously, if it's heavy on the CG, it can be pretty bad, which is the biggest threat this movie has. Practical effects, I think, would do this a big service.
Yes.
This game, yeah, which not very standard nowadays.
Have an actor do this. Put giant claws on his things and run around and have a fucked up prosthetic on the face. Oh my god, it'd be so cool.
Yeah, and
chop it off arms and limbs and shit.
And there's so much room for like Isaac Clarke's story to be told, but also just to go with the fall of the Ishimura. But now there was an anime about that. Wasn't very well received all in all, but you could do something with it. It's a prime real estate to make these crazy horror experience with a Dead Space movie, because Dead Space is pretty intrinsically, I would say, scary. In the game, it kind of wears off after a certain point when you get used to it, but that's kind of the case with a lot of horror games out there. But it's effective in what it does in the game, so translating that over into movies, I think, is even easier as far as horrors goes. Because never mind. I was thinking, for some reason, I drifted back into the conversation of anime and horror, which usually is not good or scary. And I was going to compare that with video games, but video games typically are very scary when they want to be. But
I would say, Connor, fucking Resident Evil 2 would like a fucking word with you if you think video games aren't scary.
I was thinking of Resident Evil Village. Oh god, that.
Fuck. That sequence. Ooh, the dollhouse.
Scared the hell out of me.
Oh, that's great.
Hell out of me.
Opening hours of Resident Evil 7 as well. Oh my god. Resident Evil really just the king of survival horror in the video game landscape, I think. And I think it speaks to I think Resident Evil even speaks to Dead Space success when you think about it on the grand scale of things. Dead Space obviously inspired by Resident Evil 4. It's been said a million times, even by Glenn Schofield, who co-created Dead Space. And a lot of the influences are seen in the game. You can see them right there. But I think Dead Space only exists because Resident Evil left that conversation. Resident Evil deliberately said, hey, we're going to go the more action-adventure campy route, and we're going to have fun. And Dead Space filled that void. And for a long time, Dead Space was the only one in that space. You could say survival horror was a bit of a dead space. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, that was awful.
Oh my god. Hey, as far as puns go, it was good.
No, but like Dead Space, I don't think those video games are like the greatest video games ever made, but they're certainly, classics. Those first two specifically. And they hold a lot of weight in a lot of hearts of a lot of gamers, mine included. And I think it's a cultural movement in gaming that sort of only came to prosper because the genre was so barren at the time. And for a game to be that good, come out in that time, in that space, and fill that void that Resident Evil left us in, Dead Space is great. And, I think even in the movie way, like in movies, like that type of movie doesn't exist too much anymore. You don't get a lot of like even Saw. Like you don't get Saw anymore, really. You don't get, you know, a lot of like just tear them apart, gruesome, gross to look at type movies that much anymore. A lot of it is just psychological now, which I personally love. I love where horror movies are today, but you know, there's space for this too, and I think Dead Space would be an excellent candidate to fill this void once again.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's very early, and possibly not going to happen, but you know, cool body horror practical effects segments would work. Like I said, work well with Dead Space.
Oh, that's so cool.
It would really be cool. The issue is Dead Space. This would be my final point. While like I just said, it could be cool with practical effects if it goes the heavy CG route. If it goes the generic, you know, horror fighting against zombies. Basically, they treat the xenomorphs like zombies. It'll be lame. It's you know, I think it really depends on who heads the project as opposed to the project itself, which obviously is generally the case. But with this one even more so, because you really have to. The people who make it really have to capture what Dead Space is. Those confined. I'm assuming it's going to be more like the first one with the confined quarters, the, you know, very close compact space with these, you know, incredibly frightening, fast, you know, vicious creatures that could just, you know, pounce on you in a moment's in a single. Giving that experience of traversing those Ishimuras into a film experience would be pretty difficult, but if it pays off, I think it'd be, you know, a great video game adaptation.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the story of the Ishimura is a great landscape for a film. A great, you know, quick 90 minutes to 2 hours of like just nonstop thrill ride. Like we're trapped, and it's just like a constant, God damn it, God damn it, God damn it. Yeah. Like again and again, you think of Gravity, you know? And how that's just kind of a thrill ride. You put that like that type of pace into a horror scope, and I think it would work great mixed with just some like really disgusting imagery. My thing is like the level of threat. Like the Ishimura is a big thing with a bunch of monsters on it, and I don't think you want that, because then that you very quickly divulge into the zombie horde mentality, and I don't think that's going to work for Dead Space. You want closed, confined quarters, and you want. I feel like there shouldn't be more than one or two monsters on screen at a time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That would work. And I think that also, going back to the practical effects part, would feed in, make it easier to do that. Yeah. Because, you know, if it got too many of them, you wouldn't really be able to do that, and you'd just probably see a CGI mess. Yeah. If they did that a lot, it wouldn't play out well.
Yeah. And also, like, it's quickly, like, the threat is quickly, like, dissolved in the video game. I think it should take a while for Isaac to figure out that you need to cut the limbs off. Like, that shouldn't happen until probably 45 minutes into the movie, where in the video game, it's like 10 minutes in, if that.
Because you can't just have him walking around in an action, you know, horror game and just not be able to take part in that element.
Yeah. Whereas, like, in a movie, like, if it was just one thing chasing him for a long time, that would be cool. Or, like, one thing and it took forever to take him down, and that one thing took out, like, three of our people. You know what I'm saying? Then that would work. But like you don't want like 7 of these motherfuckers in one room. Like that's too much, and then suddenly the audience wouldn't care anymore. If anybody's listening out there, we're giving you gold. Hollywood, listen to us. Anyways,
I think our opinions are in this regard pretty online with a lot of the good opinions out there as well, alongside them.
I'm saying. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the news this week. Our What We've Been Playing segment has been fully transitioned over to the Piggy Bank, so you're going to have to go over there to listen to what we've been playing this last week. Piggy Bank goes live every Saturday on podcast services and youtube.com/2pennygames. But don't worry, any new reviews or anything, the video book, the monthly video game book club, the 2 Penny Game Club, will still be here on the Gamescast, and full reviews will still be here as well when it's time to fully review them. Keep an eye out in the coming weeks for our Fire Emblem Engage review. We're very, very excited about that. But until next time, have a great time. Also, keep in touch for, you know, make sure you like and subscribe to make sure you get all of our updated opinions on The Last of Us HBO TV show. I'm very excited for it. Connor, are you excited for The Last of Us?
You know, I've heard some good things about it so far, from, you know, pre-reviews that have come out. So, you know, higher on it than I would have been otherwise, than I would have been fairly recently. So hopefully it does well.
There it is. All right. Well, until next time, have a great time. And Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye.